Remembering Lydia, a friendship that touched millions. Courtney first met Lydia in college, in a crowded lecture hall on the first day of freshman year. They were seated 3 seats apart, a random coincidence that would change both of their lives forever. Courtney remembered how Lydia turned to her halfway through the lecture, smiled shyly, and whispered, "Hi, I like your shoes." That simple compliment was the start of a friendship that felt effortless from the very beginning. They became inseparable almost instantly. They studied together in cramped dorm rooms, shared midnight snacks when exams felt impossible, and talked for hours about everything from favorite bands to the kind of future they dreamed of building. Lydia had a laugh, bright, unexpected, contagious, that could make anyone feel lighter, even on the dullest days. Courtney realized early on that Lydia didn't just laugh at funny things. She found joy in places where others might miss it. Over time, their friendship became woven into the very fabric of their daily lives. On weekends, they would explore the small coffee shops around campus, each one becoming a bookmark in the story of their youth. They made playlists for each other, filled with songs that said what their hearts could not always express. When life felt overwhelming, classes, relationships, uncertainty about the future, they leaned on each other. Their bond was a quiet certainty in a world filled with questions. Yet beneath Lydia's laughter and warmth, there were challenges most people never saw. Lydia lived with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, a genetic condition that made even simple movements painful and unpredictable. She never complained. In fact, very few knew the extent of her struggles because she had mastered the art of masking pain with humor. She called it her superpower, to make others feel comforted even when she bore burdens too heavy to speak aloud. Courtney knew parts of Lydia's life were difficult, but she didn't realize the true depth of Lydia's suffering until they graduated and moved into their first jobs. The distance between them didn't weaken their bond, but it changed how they connected. Instead of daily coffees and long talks, they texted, FaceTimed, and sent voice messages in the middle of busy days. Still, because their connection was built on years of shared history, it never felt distant. On February 27th, everything shifted. Lydia passed away at just 26 years old due to complications from her condition. The news hit Courtney like a storm that stripped away every breath she thought she owned. She wasn't prepared for a world without Lydia's laugh, without the way Lydia would tilt her head when she was about to say something brilliant and irreverent. The silence that followed Lydia's passing was heavy and cold, so heavy that Courtney wondered if it was possible for sound to ever return to the world. Courtney didn't know how to grieve. At first, she froze. She didn't want to speak about Lydia because saying her name out loud felt like making her realness disappear. It felt too final, too sharp. But one night, as she scrolled through old photos, she found one of them laughing in a coffee shop, hair tousled, eyes bright, oblivious to the years that would steal her away. Courtney cried until exhaustion claimed her. Then, with trembling fingers, she typed a message. It wasn't a sad message. It wasn't a quiet obituary or a short announcement. It was a celebration. She wrote about Lydia's laugh and how it made the world feel lighter. She wrote about Lydia's kindness, the way she made people feel seen, loved, and unashamed to be themselves. She wrote about the songs they had shared, the midnight talks about life, and the dreams they had whispered to each other under starry skies. Then, with one deep breath, she hit post. Courtney didn't expect anything to happen. She thought maybe a handful of friends would read it, offer condolences, and that would be it. But something unexpected occurred. People began responding. Messages from strangers poured in, stories of their own lost friends, expressions of gratitude for reminding them what friendship felt like, shared tears and shared prayers. People were moved not by sadness alone, but by the humanity of Courtney's words, the vivid memory of laughter, the reminder that friendship was not simply a connection, but a life force capable of touching others beyond physical presence. Comments came from as far as South America, Europe, Asia, and Africa. Some wrote about friends they had lost years ago. Some wrote about friends they still feared losing. And some simply wrote, "Thank you," because for the first time in a long time, they felt understood. In sharing her grief, Courtney discovered something profound. Sorrow doesn't exist in isolation. Grief is universal, but the stories that give grief shape, stories of laughter, moments of tenderness, shared dreams, those stories connect people in ways nothing else can. And through telling Lydia's story not as a tragedy, but as a testimony of love, Courtney created a space for collective healing. In the weeks that followed, Courtney continued to share memories, not only the big moments, but the small ones too. The jokes Lydia made at random times, the time Lydia insisted on dancing in the rain, even though her joints hurt, the way she always remembered birthdays and sent thoughtful messages that felt like hugs in words. Each story reminded people that friendship is not measured by years alone, but by the intensity of care, the depth of presence, and the willingness to love without reservation. Some days, Courtney would sit quietly and play a playlist she and Lydia had made together. On some songs, she would cry. On others, she would laugh because Lydia's voice felt close, as if she was right there, teasing her about the next track. Those moments, bittersweet, fragile, and alive, became part of Courtney's healing. Months later, something unexpected happened. People who had been touched by Courtney's posts began to share their own stories, and not just as comments online. They wrote essays, shared photos, made art, and even started conversations with their own friends they had been drifting from. In countless ways, Lydia's memory inspired others to cherish their relationships, to show up, to say what needed to be said before it was too late. Courtney realized that Lydia's legacy was not confined to the time they shared. It lived in the hearts of everyone who encountered her story. People began reaching out to their siblings, friends, parents, old classmates, and even strangers they felt drawn to contact. They apologized, they thanked, they laughed, and they cried together. Through loss, Courtney discovered the most poignant truth of all. Friendship does not end, it transforms. It becomes story, memory, and shared emotion passed from one heart to another. Lydia's laughter, once confined to small moments between two friends, now echoed across continents. It lived in the words people wrote, in the way people described kindness, in the way many now thought about those they love. And though Courtney still missed Lydia with a depth that never truly went away, she found solace in knowing that their friendship became something larger than either of them could have imagined. In grief, she uncovered connection. In loss, she found community. In remembering Lydia, she reminded the world of what it means to love, fully, honestly, and without regret.